So originally, Taylor was supposed to preach today. And I decided we're coming home and, I'm going to be here anyway. So I sent her a text message and said, well, I'm going to be home. If you still want to preach, you can. And she immediately said, well, it's up to you, but, it's kind of your life calling, not mine. So I said, okay. But she had written this wonderful sermon. And I feel bad that you're not going to get to be able to hear that today. But you will be able to hear that on September 25th. Are we going with the same one? Yeah. We're going to perfect it even more. And on September 25th, while I'm away at the dove hunt, you will hear Taylor preach a sermon, which mark it on your calendars. It's fantastic. She's brilliant. And you're going to love it. But then I'm driving home, and I call Wendy, who's in the office, because, when I go on vacation, I don't really pay attention to the readings for the week I'm going to miss. And I said, Wendy, will you read me the gospel? And she read me this gospel. And I thought, why don't you just tell Taylor to preach? This is my least favorite gospel passage, but we'll get to that later. Instead, I want to focus on the first verse of the Old Testament reading from Deuteronomy. See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, and death and adversity. Life and prosperity. It's your choice. Do you want life or do you want death? And I think anyone who reads that or hears that says, oh, I want life, I want life. But life is so much more than just choosing to live. I think life in the Bible is talking about living life to the fullest. Living life to the fullest. And that means more than just existing, more than just surviving each day. Thomas Merton, has anybody heard of Thomas Merton before? He's a Catholic, he was a Catholic monk, passed away, I think in the 1960s. But he wrote a book called Thoughts and Solitude. And in there he says, if a man is to live, he must be all alive. Body, mind, heart, and soul. If a man is to live, he must be all alive. Body, mind, heart, and soul. I think those four things are important for us if we're going to choose to live life to the fullest. I think we're probably best at focusing on our body. This Thursday, I have a physical, my yearly physical. Everyone has one of these, right? Where you go and they test you 100 different ways, your blood pressure, your temperature, your pulse, your cholesterol, all that other stuff that they do. And that's when the doctor says to me, you're not a big, strong tree, actually. You probably need to be a little bit smaller of a tree. And that's when I say, well, food's really good. We all do that. But we take care of our body. We rest. We drink water. We do all those things. We eat. But what about the other three? Do we really ever focus on the other three, the mind, heart, and soul? It's kind of a strange way to think about life, that the life is segmented. Is that what somebody say that? Thank you. That there are different, that life is a balancing act, and we need to be well balanced. And there are different parts of life more than just our body. And the first thing I want to talk about is our mind. How we can remain a healthy mind to live life to the fullest. I was playing golf a couple weeks ago, and it was one of my better rounds. I haven't played much this summer, but on the seventh hole, I made a birdie. It was a short par 3, and I had a nice shot. Don, you were there. I think you were frustrated a little bit. Made a birdie. The 8th hole, I made a bogey. The 9th hole was a long par 5, but it was straight downwind, so I had a driver, just hit it perfectly, hit a 6-iron to within like 10 feet, missed the eagle putt, made another birdie. So 2 birdies in 3 holes. On the 10th hole, I made another birdie. 3 birdies in 4 holes, which is like unheard of. And I'm starting to think, so up until that point, I've played 10 holes. I've made 4 birdies. No pars, but that's okay. 4 birdies. So I'm thinking to myself, I say those terrible words that you should never say to yourself. This could be the best round of my life. Any golfers ever said that before? Through 10 holes, I'm thinking, I am going to break all my records. And so on the 11th hole, I hit a perfect drive. Right down the middle. I'm 70 yards out, and I got a 58-degree wedge in my hand, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to make birdie or not, but I'm definitely going to make par from 70 yards, right? And so I get over the ball, and I hit it perfectly. Perfectly if I were in a long drive contest. Which, if you know a 58-degree wedge, you don't want to hit it far, but I caught it right on the very bottom of the golf club, which is where it makes it go like a rocket. And I wanted to hit the ball about 70 yards, and I hit it about 270. Because right on the other side of the green is a street. A busy street with cars going. And I hit the ball, and I realized, okay, it's not going to get down. It's going to keep going. And then I realized, it might get to the street. And then I saw it hit the street once, and I turned away because I don't want to know what kind of devastation I had caused. So obviously I didn't make a par or a birdie on that hole. But this is what the mind does, right? This is for the rest of the round, I kept telling myself, you're the worst golfer in the world. You're so dumb. I can't believe you did that. And for the rest of the round, I played terrible. Until the 18th tee, where Don said, we're tied. And I said, I love you, Don. But that's what we do. We make one little mistake, and our mind takes over. And it tells us how bad we are. It tells us that we're not good enough. It continues to remind us of our mistakes, and it replays over and over in our mind. At least mine does. And I came to the conclusion that positivity takes practice. We have to let go of those things, those reminders in our head of all of our mistakes that makes us think that we're going to fail again and again and again. And we have to learn to think positively. We have to learn to encourage ourselves. We have to learn to be patient with ourselves. We have to learn to believe in ourselves if we want to live life to the fullest. That whenever those negative thoughts creep in our mind, we just have to erase them. We have to block them. And maybe we replace them with a memory of us succeeding. Our heart. The reason why I don't like this text, this gospel text of Jesus saying, you have to hate everybody, your parents, your wife, your child, because if that was the only text we had, or if Jesus walked in today and said that to me, I would say, I'm sorry, pal, but there is nothing you can do or say that would make me hate my wife and child. Nothing. And if he would say something like, well, then the kingdom of God isn't for you, I'd say, well, that's fine because I'm not interested. There is nothing that is going to make me hate my wife and my daughter, or my parents, or my extended family, as difficult as they all may be to love at certain times. Right? It is important to love people. It doesn't have to be romantic love. I know that we all haven't had the best of luck with that. I know that it doesn't have to be a parental type of love because, for some of us, children aren't meant to be. It's fine. It's a decision we make. But love itself is important. Having someone to love. For life to be lived to the fullest, we need to love someone. It can be a parent. It can be a brother or sister. Or in Paul's case today, in Philemon, it's a friend. It's a friend who he now considers a brother. And so he writes to Philemon, Philemon, I love you, you know that. Well, Onesimus, who was once your slave and who ran away, I met him. He has started to believe. He has believed in what I've said, and I have gotten to know him really well, and I love him too. And so for the sake of my love for you and your love for me, when he returns to you, which is the right thing to do, I pray that you don't punish him, but I pray that you would look upon him as a loving brother. That's what that whole Philemon 1 is actually the entire book of Philemon. If you want to read a book of the Bible in 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 3 minutes, read Philemon. because that's it. That's the whole thing. We don't know what happened when Onesimus returns. But it's all about loving people who you're not related to, loving people who you go to church with. The heart is very important. But most important, I think, is the soul. The soul. I was out to lunch with one of the local pastors here in our community, and the check came. And I went to reach for the check, and this pastor said, "Oh, you're not gonna steal that blessing from me," and grabbed and took the check and insisted on paying. And I thought to myself, you think God is going to love you more because you bought me lunch? And then I thought, yeah, God is going to bless you. And I thought, that's a strange way to understand, to have a relationship with God, the merit and demerit system. That I went out of my way in my generosity to buy lunch for Nick, and so God loved me. God is going to shower me with the blessing that otherwise God wouldn't have. I thought, that's a strange way to be in relationship with God. It's a way that I encourage, but it's a strange way. That's not how, as a Lutheran, how I understand God. That's not how I understand my relationship with God to be. I understand that God is a God of love, period. There's no ifs in that sentence. And love, which is freely given like that, cannot be earned by no matter how many lunches you buy me. We can try, but you'll never earn God's love. That's what grace is all about. And I think understanding that God is a God of grace, not of works, not of looking down on you and saying, well, there, you're good enough, I'll bless you today. That God is a God of grace is a part of living life to the fullest. Choosing life, living life to the fullest is all about, I don't know if you've kind of caught the connection here, it's about relationships. Our mind is about our relationship with ourself, how we feel about ourselves, what we say to ourselves. Our heart is about our relationship with others, with the people around us, how we love those who are around us. I don't know if anyone saw this morning that Mother Teresa was canonized this morning by the Catholic Church. And, as Lutherans, I thought it was really cool, because I think there is no better example of love than Mother Teresa, than loving those around her. And it's about our soul, is about our relationship with God. 3 relationships that help us to live life to the fullest. 3 relationships that help us have a better life. I know the great theologian Meatloaf said 2 out of 3 aren't bad, but 3 out of 3 is better. And so today I ask you, do you want a better life? You can have it. Just work on your relationships. Amen.